Growing a business is in some ways easier than ever and also harder than ever right now. And I'm going to explain why. It all comes down to things like AI technology and over reliance on technology, things like that. That actually makes it easy, but then it makes it hard because we're losing connection. There's cultural shifts and things that are causing people in business to just lose the fundamentals. And if you want to grow yourself, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things now that are completely different than they were years ago. But the problem is some of the fundamentals still need to come back into your mindset. And a lot of the younger generations, they just don't have these fundamentals. When I talk about the fundamentals, I'm talking about the power of connection. So, right here, I've got my ESV Bible. And I'm just going to read one short thing. And this is in John chapter 13, and it is verse 34. And it just says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another." So I'll read it a little bit faster. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You are to love one another." Now, this was a commandment from Jesus to the disciples and to everyone, really, just to love one another. And it really captures the importance of just human connection and just actually caring about each other, actually connecting, which has become extremely difficult in this day and age. It's actually baffling sometimes to think about the fact that we have all this technology that makes it easier to connect with other people, but we are the most disconnected that we've ever been as a society. When you look at all the different reports that come out, you can look at things like how lonely people feel compared to what they used to feel like. You can look at mental health and happiness and depression and all these things, and almost all of it is in a very unfavorable position. I also saw recently that the younger generation, so Gen Z and younger, Gen Z is the first generation that is not outpacing their parents' generations in terms of intelligence and like outcomes and prosperity and things like that. And over time, almost every generation surpasses the previous generation in terms of what they can accomplish, their intelligence levels, like different things. And they kind of inspire the older generations at times. Like the younger generations are seen as like, it's like a sign of hope. But now we're actually in a time where it is not the case. And this has nothing to do with criticizing Gen Z. This has to do with criticizing the way our society is structured and our over reliance on technology that is causing us to have no critical thinking skills or very little, and then also a fundamental lack in real connection. And this means in-person connection, means talking to people on the phone, face-to-face stuff. I had a conversation just yesterday. I was out on a hiking trail, and I was just taking a walk like I always do. Every day I do that. And I ran into somebody on the trail. I ran into this woman walking her dog, and we just quickly passed each other. But then on the way back, I had stopped, and she was coming back, and then she said something to me, and then we just had a conversation. We ended up talking for over an hour, just about life, about society, life, business. Turns out I've owned businesses, and I've built and sold a company and been successful in my career, bought houses, things like that. I've been very blessed. And same with her. She currently owns two different businesses. I currently own two different businesses. And she's also like sold a company before. She's sold houses, owns houses. And so we had a lot in common in that way. And we were talking for a while, and she was a good amount older than me, probably about, if I had to guess, about 20 years older than me, maybe close to 20 years older than me, 15, maybe 20 years, something like that. And we're talking about just how it is because she runs businesses where she has a lot of younger employees and just how hard it is to get people off their phones, for example. Like, this isn't a challenge that people had in like the 90s, let's say. People didn't have to worry about getting their employees off the phone. They didn't have to worry about people being online all the time. They didn't have to worry about people constantly checking social media. They didn't have to worry about skewed perceptions of reality because of social media. Like right now, young people are seeing all these personalities on social media, all this stuff. They're getting hammered with information all the time, and it skews their perception of reality and their expectation of what is normal. It's a huge, huge challenge. Also, everybody has devices now that do math for them. AI that critically thinks for them and analyzes things and does research for them. So they start to lose their discernment. I was talking to somebody the other day about something, and he replied to me and said, "Well, I just checked AI and it said this." And actually this just last week I was talking to someone else and they're like, "Hey, I just checked AI on what you were talking about and it said this." These are two different situations that happened. Both different individuals talking to me about how, well, they checked AI and it said this. And then I literally had to go through and explain to them, yeah, AI said that because it's using these references and resources, but it's not taking into account all these other variables, factors, and things, and it's not to be trusted in what we're talking about here. And then they both kind of were like, "Oh, okay." Now, here's the thing. If I hadn't said that and clarified, they would have just accepted what AI had told them, and it was incorrect in this particular case. This is just one or two anecdotal examples, but there's so many. Like if I'm experiencing two of those in 1 week, just in random conversation, just imagine how much of this is happening to people on a day-to-day basis. People just getting bad information or using AI to think for them, using the technology to give them how they should feel. It's become a huge problem. Couple this with hits of dopamine and everything else chemically going on, people posting stuff and getting instant gratification, instant likes, all this. It's leading to skewed perceptions of reality. We see this. You can see this just in interviews. If you just watch interviews with people, just the way they think about things, it has just become a really scary prospect. So, yes, technology has been amazing, but it has also led to a lot of issues with perceptions of reality, expectations, what people think is actually going to be possible for them. Like people see, oh, I saw this guy who's 23 and made millions of dollars. I can do that. And then everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur, but they don't really understand like what really goes into it. They don't understand how many people fail because nobody goes on social media and posts, "Hey, I started a business and I failed. Look at how bad I've done in my life." You only see the failure stories when a successful person is like, "I failed this many times before I got successful." But you don't see how many people are actually like starting things and just completely failing. And then that's the end of the story. They failed and then they went and just got a regular job somewhere else. You don't really see those stories, right? So everybody has this expectation of like, "Oh, well, yeah, it's okay to fail because I'm going to be successful and I'm going to do this." And yeah, you do have to have drive, but there's a skewed perception of reality. People aren't realizing that like a huge percentage of people are failing. Same with the trading industry. I work in the trading industry as well, and it's like some tiny stat, like 5% of day traders ever make money. Well, you don't see the stories of the 95% that failed. You don't like see them documenting the path of what happened, right? You don't see that. And so that's another challenge that skews everyone's perception of reality. Now, the technology is amazing because it allows us to connect from all across the world, allows us to do business. Having the internet and having like the technology that we do has allowed me to build successful companies living in a remote place. That is amazing. So I'm not someone here to tell you the internet is bad or something, but I am here to tell you that I use the internet without losing critical thinking skills, right? I built my first company that I grew and sold successfully before AI was a thing. And if AI was a thing when I was building that, it probably would have been detrimental. And I see people all the time that are so over reliant on it. Now, I'm not also here to say, "Oh, you can't use AI," because AI has use cases. So again, this isn't about all technology bad, AI bad. That's not what this is. This is about using your brain and still critically thinking. Like if you are using AI in your job and you have a very specific use case, I'm using this for research tools, whatever. Like I wanted to scrape the internet and get me a list of these items. I wanted to organize this data for me. Great. It can be useful. It can actually be a really useful thing that can save you a lot of time if you're still the one doing the thinking. That's the thing. If you want to use AI the way that we would use a calculator, that's fine. Like sometimes you need a calculator to calculate something specific. If you need to divide 131 by 73,402, Like a calculator is what you need to use. Like if you do it the other way manually, it's just a waste of your time, right? So it's important to understand that like these tools can be useful for us, but the reason you're doing that math calculation in the first place needs to come from your brain. You're critically thinking about, why am I doing this math calculation? What is this going to tell me? How am I going to extrapolate what the answer is to the data source that I'm using, and what does this mean? Critical thinking. Don't lose it. You can't lose this. Like one of the biggest things that you can have as a leader is critical thinking ability, right? You need to be able to problem solve. That's the whole point of entrepreneurship and having a business, is solving problems to make the world a better place, to help people, right? Like you have to have critical thinking skills. You can't let AI do the thinking for you. You can't let AI do the marketing for you or the thinking for you, because it doesn't understand people the way that we understand people. Now, this brings me to the other aspect of what I talked about earlier in the video, which is we're losing the fundamentals, which are connection. So going back to what I said from Jesus' commandment to love one another, people are not loving one another right now. I think right now, from what I've seen, tension is at an all-time high that at least in my life, this looks like an all-time high to me of tension between people and hatred amongst people. I've never seen the level of just distrust and hatred that people have for each other as I have now. And I think a lot of this does come down to the manipulation in the platforms, what we see, what information we're exposed to, what the media reports on. Because I remember, like in the early 2000s, people were just cool with each other. Yeah, there's problems. But I do remember a time in like the early 2000s, before social media was really a big thing, before smartphones, where people just, they got along. When you went out in public, you like still conversed with people. You still interacted. You didn't just have your face in your phone reading, harsh news all the time about who you should be scared of. It was way more personal, and connection was more personal. That has shifted a lot. And now people have an extreme bias of each other. And I see it all the time. Everybody supports whatever cause. They feel like they got to pick a side, whatever it is. And then they end up not liking other people by default or having an extreme bias towards them. This is creating a huge problem in connection. And then also, people don't connect the way they used to. It's all based on text messages, done through a social media comment or a post or something like that. It's not what it was. It's not picking up the phone and talking to somebody. It's not having a face-to-face interaction like I had the other day. That woman I met with the other day, both her and I are going to remember that interaction, and now we're going to be friends. Whenever I see her, it's going to be a cool, fun conversation. She told me about her business. I'm going to support her business. I'm going to go there, support her business. That was a real personal connection that left an impact on me. Right? That left an impact on me because I was willing to slow down and just allow myself to do that, have an old school interaction with somebody. And it makes sense that she was older than me because it was like an old school interaction. Like we weren't on our phones. We just talked to each other and connected. And now I'm like, yeah, like this is great. I met somebody who lives in my area, owns these businesses, and that's amazing. And now I want to like support her. I'm sure she'll support me in what I do, and that's such a cool thing. That's not the case when somebody just likes something on your social media. That's not support necessarily. And we've just lost a lot of that. Back in the day, you really did have a smaller circle that you connected with regularly, and they were your advocates. Now in business, I grew my first business by helping people. Now I use technology, right? I was in communities helping people, having real interactions, getting on calls with people, helping people. And then eventually that led to me gaining real connections with people that wanted to refer business to me. And that's how it worked. And that's real connection. The successful entrepreneurs that I know and successful business owners I know, besides the ones who've like built some tech app that just blew up, besides those, the ones that actually build like businesses, they run real businesses like let's say blue collar, they own like blue collar businesses, carpentry, tile, whatever it is, things like that. Or they own like marketing agencies or whatever it is. The ones that have had a lot of success have been the ones who've built real connections. They built real connections with real people who became their advocates and wanted to refer business. That's just the truth of it. And I've worked with some big brands over the years, but the way that I got those as clients was through personal connection. It was never because I just like randomly hit big on an advertisement and then all of a sudden I had some huge company. Like it's just that's not the way that worked for me. My biggest and best clients have all come through personal connection. And I know that that is true of other people that I've met through real networking, real connection. And this is something that's missing right now. It's really just sad to see, to be honest with you. It's sad to see that a lot of these people think that they can just build a marketing funnel and they're going to have the best business of all time. That's not the way that this works. Now, yes, you do need to have marketing funnels and strategies and things, but real connections are what build a lot of businesses, especially in the service industry. There's different exceptions, right? Like if you're doing like some sort of very specific type of consulting, like maybe design work, therapy, coaching, things like that. That's not always done through, some sort of like B2B business networking thing. It's sometimes done in a different way. So I will say that, I will say that. And for me, for example, with my business, you can go and look in the description. You can check out my website. I have a full, video there that explains my strategy, what I do, who I am, how I work with people, things like that. If you want to learn more, I also have a free community and we have free calls every week. We have a bunch of connections in there. And that is, again, completely free. It's on School. That's also in the description. And I'll tell you that, like, if you go to my website, you'll see, yes, I have a video that explains who I am and what I do. And if people want to work with me, and sure, I do get business from people who don't know me and things like that. But that's not the way that I got this business started either. And like my best clients have come through real connection. They have a connection to me. They know me through our years of connecting over different ways, working together, whatever it is. And that's the fundamentals. Real personal connections are the fundamentals that are missing right now for a lot of people trying to grow their businesses. And I just really hope that the next generation starts to understand this, because I've seen so many people talking about how they're trying to build like an entirely like AI based business. I'm like, well, who's going to be your consumer? Other AI? Like it doesn't even make sense. People want to connect with real people, and that's never going to go away. And just like the commandment that Jesus gave us, we are meant to love each other, not have all this disdain, bias, and hatred towards each other. We're meant to really connect with each other because we all have a lot more in common than people realize. All right, I will see you in the next one.